Hello, friends. In this talk, I'd like to uh, break down some of the practical realities facing us right now as we navigate our way into the new consciousness. As most of you, I'm sure, are feeling, and I am very much, the world is a very uncertain place right now, the world of man that we have been living in, and actually we created it. It's a very uncertain place right now. It's a very dangerous place, and there's a great deal of upheaval going on. And this is because mankind as a species, is in a major transition. We are transitioning from one state of consciousness to another. And as we do this, our consciousness, our endowment of consciousness, is turning up the volume on its own uh, ability to govern human life. It is it's making human emotion much more volatile and powerful, and it's basically just magnifying our entire cachet of experience in this world. And so let's look at some of the practical things that are going on, and the basic um, makeup of our predicament. The first thing that we need to understand is that we are presently moving in a state of consciousness that is very old. We've been in it for a long time, and that it is a state of consciousness that has given rise to consciousness as an influence of human life. But because this state of consciousness is not completely pure and the state of the Christ, it is giving rise to not only influence of good, but also of evil. And this is something that's been going on for a long time, but it is building to a head right now. And so, as we understand this state of consciousness, we see that it's an intensifier of both good and evil. And we see that it's also one of the main expressions uh, of its outworking is independence. It's the sense that human beings are separate entities, separate islands, and that no one really can share what we are going through as an individual human being. In other words, our manifest destiny as individuals is completely unique. And in that sense, we're cut off from every other part of the universe, of God. We're cut off from God. We're cut off from our fellow man, and we're cut off from the life that we see around us in nature and in other animals. We are basically in this state of consciousness. We are completely on our own, each one of us. And so the practical outworking of this state of consciousness is there's two main things. One is that our perspective is dualistic, meaning that we now have the knowledge of good and evil. We now have the ability to hate as the other side of love. And the other aspect of this state of consciousness is our separation. It's our sense of separation. And the practical way that this uh, comes out is through each one of us feeling like we have to make our own way, and with this feeling comes a sense of desperation in life. It's a sense that if we don't do it, it's not going to happen, and we got to get out there and we got to fight for what we need and what we want. So this is the state of consciousness that we're in right now. And when we look at our world, we see the outworking of this state of consciousness very clearly. We see good and evil, and we see that mankind has not only perceived evil, mankind has chosen to indulge evil. In other words, our state of consciousness brought evil into the light for us. We are no longer ignorant to the fact that evil exists. And with this knowledge of evil came the temptation to explore evil and to use it, to make it a power in our lives. And so far throughout this age, this temptation, I think it's safe to say that this temptation has mastered us. When you look at human history, you see, of course, there's always been good people and there's always been goodness in our world, but you see evil at least equally prevalent and strong. And so we see evil as a power, and we see evil as very much a part of our world. And that has to do with our state of consciousness. In other words, we brought evil into prominence through our knowledge, through our consciousness, and then we failed the test of whether or not we could resist it. And the same with separation. The same outworking has sort of done us in. Uh, we all feel separate. We all feel like a separate island, an individual, and that's part of our state of consciousness. But the outworking of that has been very complex. It's been that each one of us, as the scientist Charles Darwin suggested, each one of us is we're on our own and we have to make our own way with our own strength. That's survival of the fittest in our world. And so we have all been caught up in this because of our sense of separation. Because we feel separate, we also feel desperate. We also feel afraid. We also feel motivated to make our own way. And out of this psychology of separation has come greed and a host of other aspects to our culture and our world that are very bad. They've caused our world to dim, the light of our world to dim and to become dark. And how does greed come out of separation? It's very plain. When we feel separate, we feel like the only way to be sure that our needs are going to be met and our desires can be reached and attained if we get more than we need and then store it up, because everybody, it seems to us that everybody wants to take it away from us. And that's where greed comes from. It's from the impulse to set ourselves up with more than we need out of the insecurity that separation causes, that the sense of like, we have to do this because we're on our own. And this, to get more than we need, acts as a hedge from our insecurity that we might lose what we have. So these are the practicalities, some of the practicalities of our situation in this world, and have been for 6,000 years. And we see evil, we see uh, evil running rampant with people not being able to resist the temptation, and we see greed and we see separation all around us. And this has been our situation for a long time, but it's beginning to change now. And the transition is coming in which all of mankind is going to evolve out of these problematic aspects of human existence so far. And how is this going to happen? Okay, that's the big question. Practically speaking, we're going to have to do this ourselves, my friends. We're going to have to overcome. There's no God that is going to save us. There is a God, but this God is not proactive on our behalf right now. God created us to be able to save ourselves. We're going to have to overcome this situation, and the way that we're going to do it is through the evolution of consciousness. We have help, though, and help has come to us through other human beings showing us that what we need to do and that it can be done. And so let's look at some of the ways that these other human beings have overcome, because that is what Christ consciousness is all about. And Christ consciousness is not about going backwards. It's about going forward. It's the evolution of consciousness. It's not the devolvement of consciousness. In other words, a lot of the religious teachings that we have right now stress the idea of going back to a certain state of purity or a certain state of pre-sin for mankind, and that's not going to happen. We have evolved into this state, and there's only one direction for us, and that is to evolve forward into a new state. So this state involves the perspective of good and evil, of dualities. This state has, in this state, we have failed the test of resisting temptation, the temptation of evil. This state brings forth the sense of the powerful sense of separation. And this sense has given rise to greed and striving to take more than we need. The step ahead of us, the Christ state, is not, these things are not going to go away. These aspects of our consciousness are not going to go away. And so the task ahead of us is not to deny them. It's not to say that evil doesn't exist. It's not to say that our sense of separation isn't real. That would not help our situation at all, because we have to move forward, not go backward. And denial is a kind of moving backward. So what is the step ahead of us then? And that's where we get our help from these other men and women that have gone out ahead of us. They did not, as they moved into Christ consciousness, they did not deny the existence of evil. They didn't put blinders on and say that evil doesn't exist. Inside their own psyche and in their own heart, in their own consciousness, they overcame evil, which achieves the same end, but it's the only right way to achieve this end. We have to, each one of us has to do the work of overcoming the temptation of evil, because evil is not going to go away now. We brought it into existence and it's here. And it's definitely manifested in our world big time. Each one of us then has to do this work. We have to face the temptation. We have to go within ourselves and feel the temptation at work in us, because it is in all of us. It's always a temptation to think, if life gets particularly hard, to think that maybe evil can help us make our way. That's what Cain thought when he murdered his brother Abel, was that evil, which had been in existence, might be the better way to make his way. And that's a temptation for all of us. And the other thing that we need to do is to overcome the sense of separation. It's not going to just go away on its own. We have to do the work inside ourselves to to reverse the sense of separation, which it will accomplish the same end. It will make it go away, but it isn't just going to go away on its own. So we have the examples of these men and women out ahead of us, having overcome, not denied, overcome these aspects of our present state of consciousness. And as they did this, they found themselves opening up and moving forward through the power of evolution into the new consciousness of the Christ. I think of Jesus particularly, who we call the Christ. He was definitely a great embodiment of the state of consciousness that we're aspiring to. And so I think of him, and the story of his life shows that Jesus was tempted by evil just like you and I are. He was in this world, and the world was not easy for him to make his way. And so he had to face this temptation. He had to go within himself, and he had to say no. He had to reverse the temptation of evil. And he had to say, yes, I see that you exist, but no, I will not live by you. I will not have you calling the shots in my life. I will say no to any help that you have to offer. I will depend only on the good that is within me. That's one thing that Jesus accomplished, and the story of his life is a great inspiration to us. He didn't deny evil, he overcame it, and he said, I have overcome the world. The other thing that Jesus did that showed us and inspired us was that he broke out of the sense of separation. He was a human being. He inherited the state of consciousness that we're in right now, because we all do. And he saw the sense of separation. He knew that it was real, and he saw it in himself. He saw it all around him. He saw other human beings suffering tremendously. He saw human society being commandeered by greedy men who were only greedy because of their insecurity about separation. So Jesus knew that separation was a key that he had to overcome, and he set about this task, and it was inside of him. He went in, and he confronted this aspect of his humanity and said, no, I won't go there. I'm not separate, and neither are any of you. Meaning that he could look out on all of humanity and see what a great problem this was for everybody. And he could see that the way we're made, we're not separate. We never really have been. But somewhere along the way, we came to believe that we're separate. And so Jesus broke that power. He reversed the power of separation by affirming very powerfully the fact that he is one with all God, with life and all everything, with God, with other people. There is no separation. And he affirmed that, and he lived according to that um, outlook. And he overcame the sense of separation. So when he overcame the sense of separation, he also overcame the insecurity that most of us feel. He also came to trust that his needs would be met because of his connectedness, not because of his own strength, because of his connectedness to life and to God, that things would come to him, that he didn't need to strive for them or fight for them. He didn't need to be greedy. He didn't need to be powerful. And this is the way, my friends, this is our example. This is what we need to do. So this is not an impractical, strictly spiritual dynamic. There is a great deal of practicality to this. And if we can, each one of us, do the work of going in and working with this present state of consciousness and all the complexity that it has spawned in human society, if we can go within ourselves and each one of us overcome the temptation of evil, overcome the sense of separation, and start to live that way, then the collective will begin to shift and the new age will come, and a new state of consciousness for mankind, the Christ state, will take over in the same way that this state took over our psyche in the very beginning of the age. The new age will come with the new consciousness. And we see right now in our world that there seems to be an impenetrable, indomitable uh, structure to our society. In other words, those in power have been empowered by the same principle for so long, the same outworking of greed and power and evil, using evil to promote their power, breaking laws such as murder, um, coveting, stealing. That's using evil to make your way. It's not trusting. And we see this in what appears to be an indomitable power structure. But what we don't understand is that each one of us, until we do the work inside of ourselves and move into the light of the Christ, inside ourselves, individually, we are actually fueling and feeding this indomitable structure. The power structure of our world, it thrives on the fact that we all believe that it's the only reality, which it claims to be. And And it thrives because we're all moving in the same consciousness and we're all aspiring to be like them. That's what gives them power. That's what gives them life. That's what gives them fuel. We see greedy men um, not turning away from their greed because they look at the rest of society and they see that everybody else is aspiring to be like them. So why would they give up their greedy stance? So this has been just as much of a problem. Um, People like you and I, we don't have the power, we don't have the wealth, but we envy it. And if we envy it, we're just giving them strength. We're just promoting them. We're just saying, yeah, we want to be like you. You've got it made. But that's not the way. We need to do the work within ourselves, moving toward Christ consciousness, so that we are not envious of these insecure human beings that are in power over us. We are not envious. We don't want what they have. And that will remove a tremendous amount of energy from them if enough of us can do that. If they look out on the rest of humanity and all of a sudden begin to see that people don't want to be like them anymore, that will really change the chemistry of things. And I believe that that's how it's going to happen, is that they're not going to change because they're too caught up in it, which is sad. I mean, it's not impossible for them to change, but like in all likelihood, they're not going to change, but we can change. We can take away that energy of envy and believing that we want to be like them and that they have it made and that's aspire we need to aspire to be like them. No, that is what's giving them their energy. And I believe that if we can remove that from them, if we can withhold that from them through doing this work within ourselves, that they will just begin to lose their way and maybe destroy one another. I don't know. The the situation in the world right now is building to a head um, because greed and power has really moved into the forefront of all of our lives with sort of a doubling down of strength in our midst. And so we see the level of oppression in the world actually being turned up right now. But that doesn't mean that we need to do something different than what I've been describing. We need to do that the same work, even with the oppression being turned up. And we need to trust that even if the powers that be do not willingly step aside, that if we do what we need to do, that the chemistry will shift and they will fall apart in our midst. Um, I believe that the internet is going to be a tool for this. right now, I fully understand that the internet is not being used in the best possible way that it could be used. But I believe that the internet is a technology for the new age, and it's going to help to break the spell of this age. It's going to help to break the power of greedy men and and to set the people free. Um, One of the very first things that we see when a power hungry, greedy government or dictatorship is being threatened is that they shut down the internet. And the reason for this is because even though the internet is tainted right now with commercial, it's tainted with everything that the power hungry people uh, do in everything, in our world. It's tainted in the same way. It's tainted with envy and greed and lust. But even with that, the internet is somehow portraying a message that inspires people for the new age. It is portraying a life for human beings that is free, that is dignified for every individual, freedom and dignity, and maybe not wealth, but people don't need wealth. People need their needs to be met. That's all. And the internet is holding up this example for the common man, that the common man can uh, be free and can be dignified in their life, even though the powers that be don't want you to know that. But in every instance where a repressive regime shuts off the internet, that's why. That's what they're doing. They're trying to stop the evolution of human consciousness. And of course, the reason is obvious. And the reason is that they've had it very good in this age. They've had, even though they're insecure, they've had all the money they've wanted and all the power they've wanted to try and alleviate their insecurity. So they don't want it to end. And they don't want the evolution of consciousness to take place. They don't want the new age. And they don't want the Christ. And but what we see at work in our world right now is the inward empowerment of the common man. That is the direction, my friends, that we are actually moving in. The status quo hierarchy of power is doubling down, and they're trying to tighten the screws. But at the same time, and even more powerfully, the common man is being empowered inwardly through these ideals. Education, um, just learning how to read and write and learning about the some of the basics of science and math was a start of all this that empowers the common man, bringing them out of the darkness of illiteracy, and that was total enslavement. But as we've seen in the last several centuries, the common man is coming into much greater light than we've ever been in before. And it's right out ahead of us now. All we have to do is reach out and grab it. And we have practical ways that we can do this. And that's what I've tried to help you see in this talk. Some of the things that we need to work on. And the sense of separation, there's a practical solution to that. I know that Jesus had his own solution for that, and definitely overcame that in his own life. But then he made a way for us with his sacrificial death on the cross, um, the atonement, the doctrine of atonement that came out of that. What is atonement? It's the reverse of separation. It's connectedness. It's the connectedness to God and to life, and the breaking down of all the walls of separation. So without becoming religious, we can receive the atonement, each one of us inwardly, and believe in it, and we can break down our sense of separation. And these are the things that we need to do. We need to overcome evil, each one of us, not in the world, in our hearts, each one of us. And then we need to break down the walls of separation that we have built up as part of human society. And when this happens, when enough individuals achieve this, the power structure of our world will shift and crumble and break apart. And we need to not be afraid. We need to press forward and do this. And we've been doing it. We've been doing it for hundreds of years now. The common man. This is just the final step. You know, we've been doing it, but we haven't dealt with the source yet. We haven't dealt with the state of consciousness itself that is dictating the kind of response to life that we've had during this age. We haven't dealt with that yet, and we need to. This is the final step. So take heart, my friends, and always press on forward.